Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for the slight delay. This is the Town of Dewey Beach Monthly Town Council meeting, and as well as a public hearing and executive session to follow. This is held on January 16th, 2026 at 3 o'clock here at the Life Saving Station as well via Zoom. With that, I'd like to convene the meeting and open up with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is roll call. Commissioner Bauer. Present. Commissioner Persinger. Here. Commissioner Givings.
Here.
Commissioner Jasinski.
Here remotely.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Mayor Stevens here, so we have a quorum. Next thing, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a unanimous. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's also unanimous. Is there anyone here that would like to have comment for public comment for non-agenda items? I'll open it up. Well,
I would.
we'll go through who's here in town first, and then we'll pop up to Zoom. Okay?
Okay.
Same rules apply. 3-minute timer. You'll see me do this, which is huddle up. Okay?
Good afternoon. Happy New Year. David Thomas, 1 Reed Avenue. I'm sorry I missed Dawn Hink's retirement party. I'm hoping that when a replacement is found for her, a consideration will be given to the importance of having a town floodplain manager. Frequently, the building official is the primacy, and then floodplain management is tacked on almost as an afterthought. Here in Dewey, because of our unique circumstances, really the inverse you could make a pretty good case for. The more important, the more significant is the floodplain management, and that the building code merely incidental. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here in town hall? Not hearing any? We'll move to Zoom. Kate, just let in.
Cindy, you can go ahead.
Hi there. Thank you. And I appreciate being able to log in via Zoom. I'm doing wedding planning with my son. So if you hear hotel business in the background, that's what's happening.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I wanted just to speak out because, and I've sent you all an email earlier this week, that I understand that there is an application to build a home and a pool down on Carolina Street. And it really bothers me that there was even a consideration for building 10 feet into the right of way and to allow an extra high fence that's required for pools, but higher than what the norm is to be placed in the front yard. And I just want to say that I hope that we can go forward by paying attention to the code and the requirements that we currently have in place. They're there for a reason, and I hope that we can follow them. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Just to reiterate, we are going to have a public hearing concerning this topic. Is there anyone here that has a topic other than this?
Hi. Can I?
If you want to talk about swimming pools, it's going to come up right after this.
Okay, what about trees?
The trees are on. Go ahead. We're not talking about trees today.
We're not talking about trees today?
No, you can.
Okay, well, in regards to what Cindy just said about the applicant on Carolina Street 101 who's building a new house, in researching, there shows there were 2 permits pulled to build this house, neither of which makes any sense for why the lot was decimated from the trees. If you look at the notice on the front tree, the permit was pulled for 2 or 3 trees to be taken down, and I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 trees were taken down. The entire lot is decimated. And there seems to be no reason for it because there's not even a permit to build the house yet. And the trees seem to be such a sacred issue down here in Dewey. I live at the very north end of Dewey on Carolina Street also. I live amongst these high 100-foot pines, and some of them are dangerous and some of them have come down. One of them came down on my house. My point being is there was no reason to take down the 7 or 8 extra trees to build this house since there is no permit yet to build this house and the pool. And why would the trees have been taken down if there's no permit yet to build this house? I love trees and I would love to keep my trees, but sometimes they are dangerous. And the north end of Dewey is very different from the south end of Dewey. And the fact that this lot was just cleared is very disturbing. And like Cindy said, let's just follow the rules. Let's follow the codes that the town has already laid out. It's not that hard. We all have rebuilt houses and we have all done it correctly. So I don't understand why the town can't figure this out. And I know we don't have a building official anymore, so I guess things are going to slow down quite a bit, but this is very concerning. I've been on this street for more than 60 years, and this is changing the look and the feel of this community from the nice beach town it used to be to something that looks like, I don't know, Silver Spring, Maryland, or anywhere USA, because these houses don't conform and don't look like beach houses. But the trees are very concerning to me, as are the other things that Cindy talked about, so I won't reiterate those. But thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Better not be about pools, but you can come up. All right, come on up. Name, rank?
Yes, thank you. Marcia Schick, I am the applicant at 101 Carolina Street. Thank you, Lisa, because I think this gives me the opportunity to clear up some misinformation around this project, and I really appreciate you all giving me that opportunity. Number one, the permit for the construction of the house was approved by Dewey Beach. It is coming through county permitting and should be out by the end of this week today. The trees were approved separately for removal. I am probably, having been here for 20 years and having built, renovated, or remodeled 35 homes between Salisbury Street and the North End, 20-some being on the North End, all of which I have maintained the character of those homes outside of a couple new builds. 4 of those new builds were built to 28 feet high and maintain the character. I am probably the biggest advocate of preserving trees. In fact, all 4 of my homes I built on Jersey Street, I exceed the limit for replenishing trees. All 4 of those homes, I replenished 8 trees on every home. I took out 2 and I replenished 8. I did the same on Salisbury Street, Swede Street, Chesapeake, Carolina, every place. The trees that were taken out were 4 large trees, 3 loblollies that were required to be removed by the town per the code, and 1 beautiful and sadly beautiful tree in the backyard that was a magnolia that I tried to save. I also asked the town to have some leverage to move my parking space in the front 1 foot so we could save the 1 70, 80-year-old loblolly. And the town denied that request to save the tree over the parking space because the town is not given any leverage by the council to have any leverage to move from the code at all. So what I can tell you was, for me, it was really sad to realize that 2 of the trees were required by the town to come down because of my parking requirements, despite the fact I had made a request to have some leverage to move 12 inches so I could save those trees. So while I really do appreciate the opportunity, it's really disconcerting to me that I have been a steward of this town. I have renovated, gutted, and restored 20-some houses in the North End to their original character, making them year-round homes. So I think I am probably one of the only persons in town that have done that. So with all due respect, Lisa, and you have been my neighbor for a long time, you know that. And so I don't really enjoy being made the villain. And so I would really like it if we can be more neighborly about things. And you know where I live. Everyone knows where I live. Come see me. I just made a phone call today to a woman that's been circulating letters anonymously to talk to her about what her concerns were. She didn't want to talk about them. That's the way we should behave in a town of 2 blocks by 20 blocks. I've been here for 20 years on the North End. These trees were the saddest thing for me to see taken out because I can't replace them, but I can tell you I will exceed the replacement for that lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine, you can go ahead.
Hello. Marcia, I'd like to follow up on that remark. I was not anonymous in my letter. I signed the letter, so that was not anonymous. I do agree with Lisa and Cindy. I just would like our neighborhood to maintain the character that it's had. We've had our home for 20 years. I'm at 9 Carolina Street. And I, unfortunately, when you called me, I'm happy to speak with you, as I said after this meeting, I was on my way to a meeting. So I was not available. So I just want to follow up on that. And please feel free to call me. Another concern I have that's not related to the pool situation or your development of this, your aggressive development of this lot, is the permits that are allowed on Carolina Street. The past couple seasons have been extremely difficult. We've had construction for a variety of reasons. The house is burned down and that had to be replaced. Our neighbor, who has 2 lots, built a house which took pretty much 3 seasons, and then in addition to the additional lots that are getting renovated. And as much as I appreciate, and I appreciate the renovations and I appreciate the changes that are happening in our community, it's a huge inconvenience, and it's even more of an inconvenience when it's during season. There's no parking. I'm one that does not call the police very often, but 4th of July was out of control and no parking. People were trying to get around construction vehicles. They had a lift next door that was blocking the entire street, and this is 4th of July. So my question, my outside of the pool situation is, can we limit the permits that are done on each street? I mean, is there a way to limit that? There's the house, the Churchman's across the street from us, which is burned down, so that will obviously be under renovation. And I know there's another one that's been given its permits and will be renovated, which is a couple doors down. And I would assume that Down Dogs or Dirty Dogs or what will be working on their house too, which is, so I just want to make sure this one project that Marcia's considering, that's under consideration, that doesn't get granted, and certainly not anytime soon, while all this other construction's going on. It's an inconvenience to us. We're full-time in the summer, and it's a horrible inconvenience to the renters who save their money all year round to rent a house for 2 weeks, and then it's constant construction. So noise, no parking, and that's something I'd like to have considered.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, let's move on. Reports, committee reports. Commissioner Gibbings,
No reports.
Commissioner Persinger.
Yeah, the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee's next meeting is on February 5th at 5 p.m. And if you recall, at our last meeting, we had a discussion from 2 potential vendors to conduct a resiliency study. Based on that discussion, I'm going to go back to the committee with a revised scope of work and include some more background about the state's recent climate action plan, and particularly the emphasis on resiliency that's a part of that plan. And talk to them also about the relationship here to the new comprehensive plan requirements that also focus on resiliency. It's required for large municipalities that have 2,000 or more people, but we have tended in developing our comp plans, we've tended to focus more comprehensively and focus on those more comprehensive standards. So I will then take that back and ask the committee to consider and potentially approve that revised scope of work. And also there has been some discussion about how the two researchers, even though they're with different firms, they have some interest in working together on this project. So we want to fine tune that a bit. And once we've had a chance to talk with the committee, then I'll come back to the council with a revised proposal. The other thing I want to mention, this is not so much a committee plan or a committee report rather, but it's a committee hopefully in development. We are required to prepare and submit to the state revised and updated 10-year comprehensive development plan. All Delaware municipalities have to prepare and submit these plans to the state every 10 years. And it's basically a 10-year vision for where we believe the town of Dewey Beach is headed and really should be headed. The last plan that we did in 2018, we actually began work in 2016. So it's really time to get this activity going. Because it represents a 10-year vision for the town, we also want to make sure that it provides a broad representation of all stakeholder views. So we want to begin to develop a committee that includes not only residential property owners, but also businesses. And at least in the last comprehensive plan, we actually try to get some feedback from visitors in terms of what they find good about Dewey Beach, what they'd like to see improved. So the basic call here is we need volunteers to be a part of this committee. I think we will at least seek broad representation from all of our committees that we have here in town. But if you want to be a part of this effort, if you want to have some influence over what the 10-year vision is for Dewey Beach, please send your name into Town Hall. I'm sure Kate would be glad to take your name and contact information. We really would like to get this moving as quickly as possible. That's it.
Great. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Barrett.
Marketing just had a meeting. There's been a push to help us get the bricks for the walkway around the building. So that's the main outcome of our last meeting, and our next meeting is scheduled for February 3rd at 5 p.m.
Great. Commissioner Jazinski.
No updates for infrastructure.
Thank you. Town Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Kate, if you could bring those photos up. We continue to work on the new town hall. You can see some of them. This would be one of the cells out of the three that we have back there. If you go to the next one, this is where our new administration lobby will be. Go to the next one, please. This is just some of the drywall is already being hung on the first floor. Please go to the next one. This will be the police work. There'll be 12 workstations in that room for the police department. This is some of the other areas as we walk through the building. This will be the law lobby. So on the left there would be the police department, and on the right would be parking. So when we do have folks come in from parking that are a little upset and sometimes get a little loud, we do have the police department right there. Both of those will be also, all the glass on the first floor, including the windows, is all bulletproof. This will be the lobby as you come into the building. There'll be fountains right there. This is looking from the second floor lobby out towards Route 1. That'll all be glass across there, and you can see the drywall's been moved in. This is as you go through. This will be the new courtroom, the Alderman courtroom. This will be the multi-purpose room. That's the new heat and air unit that they just put on the second deck for the second floor. That was a pretty big task getting that up there. Electrical is starting to go in, as you can see. And this is the third floor. There'll be two windows there on the third floor to let some light in. If we go to the next one, please, Kate. There was one more picture of the third floor. We have a lot of storage space on the third floor, which is a really good thing. What I've got next is a beach shack. And why do I have a beach shack? We're building that beach shack for about $1,500. It'll go down here on Dagworthy Street next to David Lynam's beach shack. And what we're going to put into that beach shack is all the stuff that the chamber uses for the bonfires and for the movies. Right now, all that's kept behind here. They put that stuff sometimes on our handicap wheelchairs and use that as like a wagon to pull the stuff down onto the beach. We're gonna have on the left side of that beach shack, all the stuff for the chambers, so they no longer have to do it. And then on the right side, where we're gonna have some of the handicap wheelchairs. So instead of running them back and forth from up here behind the lifeguard station, we'll already have those on the beach. Then on the outside of this, we're gonna have some racks where the lifeguards can secure some of their boards during the day. So I think it's a good investment. The other thing about the beach shacks, I was contacted by DENREC this year. DENREC is requiring us to get their permission to put the shacks, including David Lynham shacks, on the beach. And of course, you know, those shacks have been on the beach since the late 70s, early 80s. But that's a requirement. It took about 2.5, 3 months going back and forth with DENREC. I worked with Jennifer Ponegrat, who was very good to work with. It was a slow process, but we have approval for the beach shacks on the beach this summer. We may have to renew that every year. If we go to the next one real quick, Kate. So what we have here are the kayak racks down on Van Dyke Street. So you see the initial kayak rack there on the left. When we put that out, that we had spots open, 6, we had the 6 filled within a day, and we had people on a waiting list. So we put the second kayak rack up. That'll bring it to a total of 12. The kayak rack right there cost about $140 to build. We charge $100 for each one of those spots. So we'll make the money back and then some on the racks. That'll run from April 1st to March 30th, and it'll be $100 for the season. So those are 2 projects that are going along down there. We have posted for a new building official. The starting pay on that is $68,000 plus benefits. We are looking for a preferred certified flood manager, as was suggested. But I've talked to Rehoboth and I talked to Lewis. Neither one of those have a certified flood manager on their staff. Bethany does have one, and the pay is higher than what we're looking for. But we are looking for it. And my thoughts on that are, we hire somebody with the agreement that it's conditional hire if they take the flood management test within 15 months. And then maybe we could get them certified to help us with our CRS and our NFIP. So that's pending. As I said earlier, we've raised our pay jobs, and those are the jobs for the 5Ks and for the certain restaurants in town. They've gone from $90 an hour to $105 an hour for those. And that's to cover gasoline, vehicles that continue to run during those times, and also the taxes that we pay on those. The Reed Avenue project, as you know, is the $1 million is on hold. I have been on with Senator Coon's office twice, and they say they are engaging with the Army Corps to try to get that money freed up. We have put 2 temporary sump pumps into the catch at the end of the street. When they're on, they do about 5,000 gallons an hour when they're both running full time. About 5,000 gallons an hour to help alleviate the flooding there at the end of the street. Dickinson Street, our project down there to mitigate the flooding, it's going out to bid next week. And I am going to apply for CTF funding to help pay for that project. It has been approved by the Infrastructure Committee and has been approved here by the commissioners. ServPro was in here the other day. They cleaned out all our vents through this. They hadn't been cleaned since the building had been here. So we did have all the vents cleared, had new filters put in. That was all done this week. I've had some questions about trimming trees around power lines. That cannot be done. The power lines are owned by DP&L. The lower lines are owned by Comcast and Xfinity. Anything that's going to be done around any of those power lines must be done by DP&L and a certified contractor by one of those folks that own that. Please do not go out and try to cut those tree limbs around the power lines yourself. I'd like to thank the Civic League for their donation to the new town hall in Rehoboth by the Sea. I'd also like to thank Dewey Beach and Bloom, Dewey and Bloom, for continuing with the flowers around town. Thanks Sheena and the mayor and Iris for all the budget work, for the budget workshop. New Year's Eve went very well this year. I'll let the chief, if she wants to expand on that, but I thought there was no major events that I'm aware of, and again, the chief can discuss that. The drop there on New Orleans Street went fine, and the fireworks went fine. Thank you to both Dewey Beach Business Partnerships and Highway 1. I think you'll see the analysis that we'll have later today on the police department reflects the good job that the chief has done over the last couple of years. We are recruiting right now. We have job postings for lifeguards, our summer police officers, our parking ambassadors, and our dog ambassadors. If you're interested, please go to our town webpage. And then St. Patty's Day is only 58 days away. 58 days away for when they have the St. Patty's Day opening, right? So it's coming sooner than everybody realizes.
Because everyone looks to the beach opening at St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. And pending any questions, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
I just had one question. I like the kayak launch, I like what you've done there. How deep was the waiting list? I saw that you had 6, you built another 6. Is there another 10 or 20 people that are looking?
So
for
there was
kayak?
at least 5 that were
Okay.
waiting.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for the town manager? All right. Chief?
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I've been doing seasonal interviews since the day before Christmas. We already have 8 conditional offers. I have 3 interviews next Friday. Our goal is to get 14 this year, so hopefully that happens. Our New Year's Eve went very well. It was, I won't say quiet, but it was a lot lighter than the year before or the prior year, so it went very well. Everybody had a great time. We have our accreditation assessment scheduled for February 4th, and that's the state mandated accreditation that we've been working towards. That's a state law that we have to do. The assessors will be at our site on February 4th doing the assessment, making any recommendations if we need to fix anything, and then April will be the review board that will approve us in April. So the goal was to get accredited by 2028, so we're doing great if we do that. So our yearly report is out, so if you want to get a lot of information on what we've done for the year, it's all going to be on our site, and the prior reports for 23 and 24 are also on there. I just want to cover a few things. So I'm going to start off with grants. So for this year, we were awarded $287,701.50. Over the last 3 years that I've been here, we've been awarded $909,410.30. This year, we focused a lot of our grant funding on technology for replacement of town cameras, radio equipment, mics, Surface Pro tablets. We also get a lot of grant funding for the extra Office of Highway Safety for speed enforcement, DUI enforcement. That's all covered by the state, and additional funding for extra officers. That's also through grant funding. Over the years, we've been able to purchase a lot of our needed equipment all through grants, such as weapons, bulletproof vests for ourselves and for our seasonals. Just most of our equipment has been purchased through grants, and we've also gotten vehicles through grants. So it's been a very successful grant funding for us. Our achievements for the year, just to cover a few of them. We launched our drone unit. We added 2 drones. And we trained 2 drone pilots. Those drones were purchased with donations. We relaunched a motorcycle unit by adding the 2 Zero motorcycles, which are electric, and we trained 2 motorcycle operators. Those were actually funded through donations and grant money, and they've been very successful. They were out this summer, and they were able to get it in and around traffic smoothly when everything was backed up. We had our 2nd annual Public Safety Day, which we partnered with the Dewey Beach Lions Club. That went very well. We completed our updated agency analysis with Dr. Warren, who's going to discuss that later, which included inspection of our building, policies, procedures, employee surveys, and community interviews. We held our 2nd annual award ceremony. We got our new camera server and software for our cameras. We updated several outdated town cameras, created and deployed a new ticketing system for our seasonals. We implemented our new radio dispatch system. Our 13th officer graduated from the Dover Police Academy and joined us in March when he was fully trained. And we hired and trained 14 seasonal officers. So for training for the year, our officers completed 1,832 hours of training, which did not include firearms, canine training, or academy recruit training. Our academy recruit hours were 868.50. That's how many hours it takes to get through a police academy. Our 2 canine handlers attended 16 hours of canine training a month, totaling 192 hours. And our officers completed firearms 3 times this year. And all the type of training and additional training we've completed, the majority of it is on this annual report that you can see. I'm going to cover the stats. Kate, do you have the stat chart? Mr. Mayor, did you want me to cover all the months or just the year-to-date totals on this sheet?
If you want just the prior month, I think people can see this, but I think
Okay.
the prior month, the kind of how things are trending.
Okay,
compared to last year, but I think the totals are pretty indicative of the amount of work that you guys do.
yeah. So for calls for service, for the month of December, we had 367. The month before was 368, and in October was 542. And if you look at December of 2024, for the month of December was 366. So the calls for service year-to-date for the, correction, that should not be year-to-date, total amount. For the year of 2025, we handled 6,506 calls for service, and in the year 2024, we handled 6,467. So for as far as criminal arrests, in December of 2025, we had 20. In November 2025, we had 7. October, we had 8. In December of 24, we had 14. Our total arrests for this year were 275, and for 2024, it was 302. As far as traffic citations written, in December of this year, it was 233. It was 187 in November and 160 in October. In 2024, in December, it was 158. Our total traffic citations for this year were 3,320. In 2024, it was 2,112. Our traffic enforcement hours, that means that's when the officers are out there just doing their traffic enforcement, speed enforcement, radar, DUI enforcement. So in December 2025, it was 363.5 hours. In November, it was 303 hours. In October, it was 336 hours. In December of 2024, we ran 336 hours of traffic enforcement. For the year total, it's 4,182 hours, 0.5. And in 2024, it was 3,269 hours of traffic enforcement. As far as accidents go, we did not have an accident in December of this year. In November, we had 2. In October, we had 5. December of 24, we had 3. We had a total accident count of 94 this year. And in 2024, we had 92. As far as parking, we had 17 in December, 21 in November, 12 in October, and in 2024 it was 8. Total parking citations for 25 was 495, and 24 was 602. Civil citations, as you can see, there was 0 December, 0 November, 3 in October. In December of 24, we also had 0. Total civil citations for the year were 295, and in 2024 it was 239. DUI arrests. So for the month of December, we had 0. November, we had 1. October, we had 1. December, we had, of 24, we had 2. In 2025, we more than doubled our DUI enforcement. We had 37 DUI arrests this year. And in 2024, we had 15 arrests. And that's pretty much all I have.
We're busy this year.
We were busy this year.
So let me get this straight. The 400 residents had 6,500 calls
Yep, that's
for
right.
service?
Yeah.
Well, who did they arrest in December? Do you have a general, I can't believe there's 20 arrests, there's no one here. I mean, were they all one day?
Actually, sure, there's a lot of people here out on the weekends, on the holidays. There's a lot of things going on in the off months. And during the summer, there's up to 20,000 people here.
Oh, I agree with you here, but
There are a lot of people here from October through now. Now, this is our slower period now.
And what we've seen, as everyone has over the last 15, 20 years, there's more and more people here on the weekends. There's more and more people,
There's more events going
more
on.
events going on.
Businesses wouldn't be open if the people weren't here.
That's
And
right.
we have more businesses open between Thursday and Sunday than ever before.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Any questions, Chief?
Yeah, thanks, Chief.
All right, move on. We do not have anyone here from the chamber, so we'll pass on D. With that, we're going to open up for a public hearing. It's a public hearing regarding a resolution proposing that a referral to the Planning Commission for recommendation and an associated public hearing to be held on a subject of amending the Dewey Beach Town Code Section 185-51 related to the required yard, accessory swimming pool, and pool fences. With that, I'd like it opened up to those that are here in Town Hall who made the trip out in this cold weather. So raise your hand if you'd like to go to the podium. Mr. Deegan first.
Jim Deegan, I would like to defend the town for following code. The owner could have adjusted there. There was a parking lot before that house that worked, and so I'm sure she builds beautiful houses on Bayard. I have no problem with that. But again, do not blame town code for the loss of trees.
Thank you, Steve. Ms. Schick, I think your hand was up next.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So, I have a packet here I made, mostly that you can take with you, just so it's kind of clear what I'm explaining.
Here, I'm good.
All right.
Here.
Okay. So yes, again, 101 Carolina, 1430 Bayard. I lived down the street. I lived at 103 Carolina for several years. And I personally took a lot that was decimated with no grass and irrigated it and planted all those trees myself, except for the big ones, so that could be a beautiful lot for all the time that it sat empty. I just want to talk about the pool, front yard pool and the pool fence. Just so everybody understands, for clarity's sake, because I think there's a lot of confusion. My pool that I applied for is approved. It is within the buildable footprint of the house, meaning where my pool sits, I can build a 35-foot wall with nothing behind it. I can have 20-foot statues. I can build whatever I want as long as it doesn't exceed the setbacks or the height limit. So my pool is fully within the buildable footprint. The issue at hand, which seems to be before the town, is whether you want to allow pools within the front yard setback, which is not my pool, and whether fences at 4.5 feet could be in the front yard setback. I think my contention is there almost 100% of applications today for new construction are applications with in-ground pools. That is the number one benefit that people want in a beach house. That's their own house and also in a rental house. So people building for themselves are building 100% with in-ground pools. A lot of people are building pools in the front yard, in front of their house, for two reasons. It's open more to the air, it faces the street, and it's the least destructive in terms of neighbors for noise. When you put a pool in the backyard, you have 5 houses around you that the pool noise emanates to. When you put a pool in the front yard, it emanates to the street and this way, and there are no houses bordering you or the pool where it emanates. So my position on selecting the front yard for pools, which I did one at 114 Chesapeake, which was fully approved, is based on open air to the sky and the least destructive noise to neighbors. We all know pools have kids with noise. So I have less complaints if my pool was in the front yard and not echoing noise all around 5 houses that it surrounds to. So I'm hoping that we don't have a knee-jerk reaction of, oh my goodness, pools are in the front yard. There is a very logical reason I place them in the front yard, and that's so that the noise is the least to neighbors. The other thing about the 4.5-foot fence, the Sussex County Building Code and the ICC and the National Code requires a 4-foot safety fence around a pool. We require 4.5. I would suggest that we look at raising the front fence to something in between. We go from 3.5, 36 inches to 42 inches. 42 inches will satisfy the pool safety fence, and it's this much higher than the fence we now require. I can't imagine any circumstances where that would impede the character of the town. Some of the things I want to tell you is there are 3 other sections in the code that allow and permit things higher than 3.5 feet in the front yard. One is porches unenclosed, decks can be protrude 5 feet from the front of your building line. They can protrude up to 4 feet high and within 6 feet of the front property line. So our current code already allows an unenclosed porch or deck to be 6 foot from the front property line up to 4 feet high. The unintended consequence of that is if you have a 4-foot high fence, the building code requires you to have a 3-foot high rail. So now you have a permitted 7-foot structure 6 feet back from the property line. And that is permitted in our code. The other section of the code that allows higher structures or impediments is HVAC units can be to any height in the front yard setback and only 3 feet from the front property line. So most of those, once they get onto a platform, they're about 5 feet off the ground. Someone could have 3 of those in the front yard. So what I want people to think about is, let's not just have a reaction that a 4-foot fence versus a 3.5 at 6 inches is going to be any noticeable difference to anyone. But if you built your pool in the front within your buildable footprint, the only issue is the safety fence. And so I think it seems more balanced and reasonable to, well, not allow, the code will always allow pools within the buildable footprint in the front of the house, but to look at allowing people to enjoy their front yard and not disturb their back rear neighbors of 5 houses so much by just reducing our fence to 4 feet and allowing an ornamental fence of 3.5 feet to 4 feet. And it seems that we will calm all these issues. And it's not now contradicting 3 other sections of the code that allow higher structures or impediments in the front yard.
Thank you, Marcia.
And this is just, if you would take it away, I included the code sections, I included examples of it, but just if I could have 30 seconds, I want everyone to know that on a quick drive-by today, there were 42 houses in the first 2 blocks of Chesapeake to Jersey that already violate the 3.5 feet with fences, hedges, which aren't permitted in the front over 3.5 feet, or other obstructions. So I included the addresses, some photos, but we are already in a situation where over 50% of the north end already have structures that, if you're going to go on a safety issue, really should be removed then. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, for the record, I did photos to Commissioner Trzynski, so he's also able to review the material.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? On 185-51, Kate?
Yep, David, you can go ahead.
Yeah, David Moskowitz, 25 Reed Avenue, full-time resident. So one question I have is the potential unintended impact of the ordinance on HOA common area pools. And I want to raise a concern how the ordinance applies to HOA common area swimming pools. In many Dewey Beach HOAs, pools are shared amenities. And as a result, they could be in front of certain homes without occupying a required front yard in the zoning sense. And in my HOA, for example, the common area pool serving units on McKinley Avenue is located in front of those homes. So as written, the ordinance could unintentionally prohibit new HOA pools or place existing lawful shared amenities in non-conforming status, which is not, I understand, the subject of what you want to do. So I respectfully ask the town to clarify how this ordinance applies to HOA common area pools, including whether there should be some sort of exemption for shared amenities is appropriate. So the code that looks to do one thing, and which is preserve the town's objective, whatever that may be, but not unintended consequences. Separately, just to a mention of unrelated subject, which Ms. Schick brought up, the front yard height, fence height limitation should be maintained as to reflect Dewey Beach identity as an open and welcoming beach town. And we don't need walled off houses. Thank you.
If anyone else wanted to make a comment on Zoom, if you can just unmute yourself. Not
Is that
seeing
it?
anybody.
All right. So not hearing anyone on Zoom, not anyone else in here for public comment?
Mayor, can I make one 10-second clarification comment just based
Go ahead. You got 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
29.
I do just want to clarify that our current code does permit pools in the front yard, required yard setback, and the safety fence. And so that was established in 2013 by hearing, and it has continued in that way since then. So I understand you're looking to disallow that, but I'm asking that you look at the fence issue more heavily.
So clarification, we're not looking to disallow anything. We're opening public comment on a current section of our code. So we're not trying to disallow anything. We're just having comment on it. Okay.
You have another comment on Zoom, Christine?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to, Marcia brought up all these violations that are occurring with the safety on the corner lots, having hedges and fences. So again, I don't agree that she should have a pool on the corner. And then if there are people in violation, if possible, if it's hedges, they should be removed. And maybe I don't know if there's any way to ask these neighbors to make the corrections so that they are within code. I don't know if that's possible. No, so that's my comment.
Thank you. Anyone else? I thought Ellen was raising her hand. All right.
Would like to weigh in on this?
All right, we're going to therefore close public comment and move on to the agenda items. Agenda A, this is the discussion and possible action regarding resolution proposing that a referral to the Planning Commission recommendation and associated public hearing be held on the subject of amending the Dewey Beach Town Code relating to required yards, accessory swimming pools, and pool fences.
And if I could just expand a little bit on what's been said so
Yes.
far, and that is that this is not meant to be a substantive or represent a substantive change to the code. What you have before you is a reference or an attempt to clarify the code. In two places, we have prohibitions against fence heights in a required front yard, which is the restricted area, the setback area, in excess of 3.5 feet. That applies to walls and hedges as well. In another instance in the code at 18551B regarding the location of swimming pools, there's a restriction that a swimming pool may not be located nearer than 10 feet to a side yard boundary line or nearer than 6 feet to a rear yard boundary line. This provision is meant to clarify that a pool itself cannot be located in the restricted front yard, which is again in the north end anyway, an 18-foot setback area. So current law does not prohibit, as Ms. Schick indicated, a pool from being located in the front yard. But the code does prohibit, in my estimation, based on 18551 and 18592, fences, hedges, and walls in excess of 3.5 feet in the front yard setback area. And this is clarifying that that restriction would apply to swimming pool fences as well. So if this ordinance is adopted, it won't outlaw or prohibit swimming pools from being located in the front yard. It will just mean that they've got to be adjusted. They've got to be located far enough back from the setback area for the location of a fence, because that fence necessarily by law has to be 4.5 feet in height. So I don't know if that clarifies. I hope that
So the question is not necessarily, can you have a pool in the front yard? The question is whether or not.
That could be a question, but that's never been, that's, our code does not currently prohibit it. Our building official has not denied applications to locate pools in the front yard.
As long as they were at the required setback from the front requirement. So is there 2 fences then that would occur in that situation? You'd have a front.
Well, the ornamental fence in the front is an optional thing. You don't have to have.
You need to have,
right. But you are required to have a safety fence.
Around the pool, correct.
And our code in 2 places says you can't have any fence in excess of 3.5 feet in the restricted area of the front yard. And this ordinance is intended to clarify that that applies to swimming pool fences as well.
Fred, before I open up to council, are any of these adoption of Sussex County? For example, does Sussex County require a 4.5-foot fence around pools?
I believe Sussex County requires a 4-foot safety fence, not 4.5 feet. And I think that's what Ms. Schick said, and I think that is accurate. I think that Jim has, and Dawn maybe have confirmed that we have an extra 6-inch requirement on pool fences.
Is there a state requirement?
I don't think there's a requirement that a fence that surrounds a pool be higher than 4 feet anywhere. I can't recall off the top of my head whether it's I'm not sure where the 4 foot, I think 4 feet is generally the case everywhere. Ours is 4.5. I don't know if it's a state requirement, but if there is a state requirement on safety fences, I don't believe it's higher than 4 feet.
Council, questions, comments?
So the restricted area is 18 feet from the property line back?
The front yard, yes, in
Okay.
this case. Mhm.
So you could go back 18 feet and you could do the pool?
So pools are also required to have a 3-foot surround. And we also have a green space requirement. So the surround, if it's impervious, can't be
Can't be
located in the 18-foot area either. So minimally, you're looking at a fence, a 3-foot surround, and then a swimming pool in the front yard. I think that's what the current law calls for. There's some dispute. That's what I believe the current law calls for, and that's what this.
Can you restate that, Fred? So property line, 18 feet, pool fence, 3 feet, pool.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 3 feet minimal. I mean, you could have a bigger surround than that if you wanted.
And how would that affect the green space requirement?
Well, that
Or
would be,
that's not
what
an
you
issue
what you just described would be compliant with the green space requirement. But logically, no part of the surround can be in the front yard setback if that surround itself has to be enclosed by a fence higher than 3.5 feet.
I just gotta ask again, the things I never thought I would be discussing when I decided to take on this role. So if there was not a requirement on the fence, if the fence was 4 feet, if you could have the front fence be 4 feet, it was 4 feet from the pool, where could you put the pool? Is this a fence issue or is this a pool issue? I guess is what I'm
It still
getting
has to be 18 feet back from the
at.
property
Still has to be
edge.
18 feet back.
Well, the pool, I think, the pool's gonna need to be
18 plus 3.
21 feet
18 plus
back.
3.
Right, from a safety fence. Because a safety fence by definition is taller than 3.
I'm not trying to lead this conversation anyway. I'm just trying to get to the pool. If our front yard fence was 4 feet, which if the front of the.
4 feet tall?
4 feet tall. 4 feet tall.
If
it was, I'm just asking what it is.
Right.
Instead of 3.5, if it was 4 feet, which is consistent with what Sussex County requires also as pools, then how far back would a pool? You don't need another fence. Right?
You've got green space, the green space
Then it
ordinance.
becomes a green space.
Would dictate that the pool surround couldn't be in the 18-foot setback area either.
Okay.
But, okay, so if you move the pool back into what's described
That'd be
earlier
18.
as the buildable area,
Right.
the entire walkway and fence are in the buildable area, you would have to have a fence potentially, and depending how close it is to the structure, I can't imagine going to pool all the way up to the front door.
Right.
But
Maybe.
But you got to have the 3 feet
But if it's
all the way
not,
around.
if it's not, you gotta have the 3 feet all the way around as well as the safety fence. What I think is important in this discussion, assuming that we refer this to planning and zoning, is everybody understands what front yard really means, and I don't think there's common understanding of that. As was earlier pointed out, you can have a pool that's not in the front yard, but is in front of your house, if you move it back outside of the 18-foot setback level, restriction rather. Is that? We're just
No.
saying, we're just saying you move from the property line to 18 feet, that's the setback area. Your pool would then have to be located further back than that.
It could still be in front of the house.
But you could still be in front of the house, but it would be in the buildable area, entirely within the buildable area. Otherwise, at least in the NR district, it would violate the green space requirements.
I think what you're saying is accurate, yes.
Okay, well, I would like to give Marcia an opportunity to respond.
I don't think that's correct, and I think, I'm sorry, Marcia Scheck, speaking on behalf of 101 Carolina. I think that's the issue that people don't understand. A required yard, the word required yard in the code means any yard that is, the code requires to be open and unenclosed. So there are certain things that are permitted in those yards. You are not permitted to build a house in a required yard. So the required yard in the NR would be the 18-foot front setback, the 8, and the 12. However, currently, the code permits a swimming pool anywhere in the required front yard, meaning within 0 property line to 18, and it also permits the pool safety fence because it's a requirement of the pool. So that was decided in 2013 here in Dewey Beach at a hearing, that pool safety fences in the required front yard at 4.5 feet are not a violation of the code. It was reinforced again in 2021 by Mayor Cook in a public hearing that pool fences in the front yard at 4.5 feet are permitted currently. So I think what the town is trying to do is say, do we still permit pools in the required front yard? And do we, if we do we set an articulated setback for pools? Like, as an example, will we permit a pool at 15 feet? Then you can have your 3-foot walkway and your 4-foot fence. I think what you're trying to look at is, are you going to change the code and require pools to only be in the buildable footprint? So I think if people understand what the required front yard, so what it says is an accessory swimming pool, open and unclosed, may occupy a required yard. So that is any required yard. The code already permits that. So I think it's a matter of, are you looking to change that or set some dimensional limits? I think what I hope everybody has a lot of conversations about as we go through this is, what is the safety, health, and welfare issue? If someone has a pool, it's protected by the appropriate required International Building Code fence at 4 feet, and all 3 counties in Sussex County require 4 feet, not 4.5. And I'd just like us to have open conversation about why I put pools in the front yard, and that is there's not disturbances from noise to 5 houses versus street front. So I really hope we have a lot of, deep and thoughtful discussion on it.
Okay, well, I have a different interpretation, but I'm not the person who decides. I think in the NR district, putting a pool in the front yard setback between the property line and the 18-foot setback would violate the green space requirements. There's nothing, that came after, I believe, some of the hearings that you referenced, but there's nothing in the green space requirements that allows a pool that I see. That's my interpretation. That may be wrong, it's for someone else to decide. I just think in terms of the language we have already, there's a suggested addition here, so that it would say accessory swimming pools, open and unenclosed, may occupy a required rear yard or side yard. Logically, to me, I think there was a typo when this was originally developed. Otherwise, there would be no reason, if you want to just say it has to be it can occupy any required yard, there's no reason to distinguish side yard. There's no reason to even mention side yard at that point. But I think it was a clear typo. So you've already had an interpretation that the current language allows a pool in the front yard, the required front yard. That's for others to decide. But I just want to make sure that as planning and zoning takes a look at this, so that there are there's clear information for how the town should act when they're faced with a proposal for a pool in the front yard, and for the public in making comments about this to understand exactly what constitutes the required front yard versus what constitutes the buildable area in front of the house. And I just think that's important information for everyone to have, and for the public to have, and for planning and zoning to have as well.
So it's, obviously, we wouldn't be discussing this at length if there was not ambiguity in terms of how we are to interpret these various elements of the code in the building. And I think the intent would be that if we do vote to send this down, that there's clarity on all of this in terms of how the green space, height fence, where the pool can be, et cetera, so that we don't have these issues coming forward for future development issues.
Well, I would,
May I make a comment?
Of course. Hey, David, how are you?
Yeah, well, so I'd like to make a comment on a couple of things. First of all, the calculation of the 18 plus 3 as being the minimum distance from the front property line, of course, that's correct. And that's just a minimum. There is impact on the front neighborhood as a whole based on the pool distance. So there's a lifestyle kind of impact in terms of the whole neighborhood, and that's the feedback that I'm hearing from residents, and they've always felt that the front yard fence limitations is what protects us in the code from having pools too close, from their opinion, to the street. It's that limitation on fence, which basically effectively denies pools being in the front yard. I do disagree with some of what Ms. Scheck said as far as history. I don't believe that what she is saying is really fully accurate. The issue of whether it's a 4-foot fence or a 4.5-foot safety fence, that either one is still over our height limitation on fences in the front yard. So, I don't know how big a difference all of that makes. My overall approach on this ordinance is I view it as more of an abundance of caution type of thing. I think our code already prohibits effectively through the limitation on fencing. You basically can't do a pool in the front yard, as well as the green space issue is another complication why you can't do it in that first 18 feet. And you have to set it back far enough so your fence is not in that 18 feet as well. I view this as an abundance of caution just to make it a little bit more clear in the code, but I already think it's in the code to begin with.
Thank you, David. Commissioner Gibbons?
No, I've had my questions answered. Thank you, sir.
So, Gary, how would you like to?
could I just,
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm reminded that it is the building code where the 4-foot fence height comes from. So that was answered by Ms. Scheck to your question. I think that's the origin of that. And I do agree with your reading of 18551B, which is that there's some wording here that it doesn't make any sense if it's to be interpreted the way some would like it interpreted. I think the only way to read it sensibly is to conclude that you can't have a swimming pool in the front yard. You can have it in the rear yard to the extent that it's not nearer than 6 feet to the rear boundary line. And you can have it no closer than 10 feet to the side yard boundary line. What occurred years ago, I would characterize differently than was characterized. We'll talk about that a lot more later, I suppose. But it was not an expression of the Board of Adjustment that's authorized to interpret the code. It was in the context of a different matter altogether that resulted in that swimming pool on Chesapeake being allowed to remain in its current location.
Okay, well, the question to me is, if we refer this to planning and zoning, what do we want them to do? I mean, normally, if we send something to planning and zoning, we send them, the best course is to send them a draft ordinance, which really reflects what the sense of the council is, and then have them take a look at it, hold public hearings, get public input, and then come back to the council, and, we may have another public hearing. I'm not sure if a second one is required, but.
Yeah, you would.
There is plenty of opportunity for public input. The question is, would we be sending, in the ordinance in this form, would we be sending something to planning and zoning that's not specifically or sufficiently specific in terms of what we believe the sense of this council is?
Well, I also want to reiterate, not that it's my opinion, but David Jasinski's opinion that it is addressed in terms of pools in the front yard. That's what I heard him say. Is that correct, David?
Sorry, I just had to unmute. What I was saying is that, in effect, the prohibition on fences over a certain height effectively makes the whole issue moot, because the code is quite clear that you can't put a fence over a certain height. I do agree with the people who are saying that the wording is odd. Saying a required yard versus any yard is two very different things, and the code does not say any yard. The code just says yard, and then goes on to talk about side and rear yards. because of the fence limitation, there's really no point to even discuss, from the code perspective, front yards, because of the fence limitation, you simply can't do it.
Good evening, Expedition.
Cocktail hour. It's cocktail hour on the cruise ship. It's cocktail hour here too.
So, excuse me, what we have here matches what Commissioner Jasinski was saying. What we have here, and I'm referencing the attachments for today's meeting, does not have that 18 feet plus 3 feet in it. Is that kind of the question that we're sending to planning? Which is it, or?
I think we need to be very clear in terms of which one is it. I'd like to have a conversation, and maybe you can tell me if we can't do this part of it, which one is it, the definition of a yard, side yard, et cetera, and also about the fence issue. Because I'll take myself out of the mayor position, I'll put myself in a personal position. If I had a property that faced south, I would want my pool in the front yard so that I get the max amount of sunshine. That's just, I've seen it in North Shores, that's just versus the backyard that's shaded the whole time. So I understand from a enjoyment perspective of where the pool goes. You're not going to put it in a place that somebody's not going to enjoy. But from the other side, the safety side is why I think we went to 4.5 feet versus 4 feet. I'm joking. Everyone knows I joke. 3.5 feet is sufficient for me, may not be for Gary, okay, in terms of the safety.
What do you mean?
Do you want to stand up? Okay. So I just would, the intent here is how do we, a good friend of ours, Pete Schwarzkopf, said, don't let code get in the way of common sense. Why do we have these rules in place? What are they meant to do? It's meant to allow each of us to build what we want to be able to build without taking away from our neighbor, and to have that enjoyment of that. So I think there's multiple things. We want to keep the trees, we want to keep the green space, we want to protect our residents and our visitors. And how do we make it so that that's what we're actually accomplishing versus mandating what you do. Does that make sense?
Well, we've gotten I've gotten a number of emails, or had some emails shared with me, and I would say the tenor of most of those emails is they don't want to see swimming pools in the front yard. So I think that's a question that we have to raise for debate, public input, and, the draft ordinance that is here would not allow a swimming pool in a required front yard.
But it would allow a swimming pool to be located in front of the house.
Fully within the buildable footprint. Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's my interpretation.
Which
So-
most of us interpret as the front yard.
Well, that's why I said it has to be, if you're gonna raise this
18
issue and
plus
have a
3.
discussion about it, people have to know what the required front yard is versus the area that's in front of the house. It's not part of the required front yard. So, maybe this ordinance is specific enough that, we could send it to planning and zoning. Again, it gives plenty of opportunity for public input.
Okay.
That's not to say that, we're in favor of it or, we're approving it in any sense, but, it seems to be, I think it seems to reflect, I think, the tenor of input that we've gotten from the public.
With the intent of providing clarity on 3 different areas of our code that are conflicting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there was something that was incorrectly said. I'd like to make a clarification because I think it's important. There's 2 distinctions between fences in our code in the front yard.
Ornamental fences, which are 3.5 feet, meant to be decorative fences, and pool safety fences that are required in our code to be 4.5 feet. So that's the convergent, distinctions here. It's ornamental fence, 3.5 feet, safety fence, 4.5 feet. Despite, with all due respect, David, the code does permit currently pools anywhere in the front yard as long as and 4.5-foot fences. But I think if what the mayor's saying, which I really appreciate your thoughtfulness on this, let's think about how people want to use their house. And everybody's building with pools, and that maybe they want it in the sunny side. But our ordinance says we're asking planning and zoning to look at restricting pools in the front required yard. I would really feel like if it was more open to say, examine the issue of pools in the front yard, whether we want to require them within the building footprint. And it begs the question of, if it's in my building footprint at 18 feet or 21 feet, and it's 16 feet from the property line, I'm not sure what the
Well, Marcia, this is.
The issue
there's
is-
A lot of, ability to talk on this in terms of the topic of this. Again, if there's one clear answer, we would
Right.
already have had it. So I think sending this to planning and zoning and ask them to evaluate placement.
Okay, I would like to send it with the record of the July 2013 hearing where the board was sworn in as a quasi judicial board, and the only question they were asked to answer in that hearing was, is a 4.5-foot pool safety fence permitted in the front yard, or is it a violation of the code? And the transcript, which I provided to the town, was that the 4.5-foot safety fence in the required front yard was not a violation of the code, and it was fully permitted. So I'm just asking if you send it, could you please send it with that material?
Commissioner Persinger.
Well, I move that we refer this draft ordinance to planning and zoning for their consideration and recommendation, and include with that the material that was just suggested from the July 13, not sure, no, what year? I'm sorry, what year that, relevant year?
2013.
Okay, 2013.
And looking at placement of pools, comma, height, fence height, comma. I think there was a third, is the green space. With those in
Well, I
mind.
think we already,
Yeah.
they already have green space.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure the green space should be part of it.
That's,
So you're talking about hedges and natural
Correct.
plants? areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right.
I do have one comment, if I could make it, please.
yes, Mr. Dedes.
Can we just have something just to make it very clear what people consider the front yard to be? To make a distinguish between the setback and the front yard, just something to that end, because it does cause confusion. Thank you.
The buildable area.
Right.
Okay. To include that as part of the motion, Kate.
Right.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, next up, presentation discussion of 2025 Dewey Beach Police Department organization analysis. Alice.
Mr.
Dr.
Mayor, can I
Warren.
make some comments as he comes up? So,
Yes, sir.
In 2019, the town council decided to have analysis done by on the department by retired state police captain Warren of American Law Enforcement Training and Consulting. Analysis discovered several items that needed to be addressed. When I arrived here in 2021, one of my priorities was addressing and correcting the findings that were found in the 2019 analysis. Some of those findings were directly related to low funding for the police department. With the support of the commissioners and the public, a majority of the budget items have been addressed. However, there were still other areas that needed to be improved. In 2025, we brought Captain Warren back to complete an updated analysis of the police department. The 2025 analysis that you're going to hear has revealed the department has made major improvements. And, most of that's because of the hard work of the police department and the chief. And there's always room for improvement, but I really think it's important to show where we were in 2019 and where we are now in 2025. And with that, sir, I'll turn it over to Captain Warren.
Welcome, Captain.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. In short, Mayor, I would like to just read into the record, I think it'd take probably 6 or 7 minutes, my comments rather than in lieu of time looking at the hour of the day. It's a 28-page report. I think you all would rather me just simply
Yes, we
get
would.
to the
Thank you.
point. If that's okay with you?
Yes, perfect.
Great. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for inviting me here today to share some of the highlights of the 2025 Police Department Review. It has been a pleasure working with the town manager, chief, and each of you during these last few months. I'd like to start out with a short introduction, address some of this study's highlights, and end with providing you with a short set of new recommendations for both the short and long-term future of the department. Introduction and background of this 2025 review/study. As requested, Writer initiated a follow-up organizational review and analysis of the Dewey Beach Police Department this past fall. The study you have in front of you is the compilation of the data and information I retrieved during this review. The following observations, conclusions, and comments are based upon my 40 years of public safety and law enforcement experience and expertise. These are not intended to be all-inclusive or completely exhaustive, but to provide the reader with an overview of how the Dewey Beach Police Department is currently operating both administratively and operationally. In an effort to stay within our identified budget and still provide the town with a high-quality and comprehensive review of the department, we agreed to the following format: to take each of the original 2019 study's 37 recommendations and simply measure and reassess what progress had been made, if any, in each of those areas. With this in mind, I chose to include in this study's written report the original recommendations with my new observations and findings provided directly under each of those. This was to keep the results of this study as user-friendly and succinct as possible for the reader, and for the reader to not have to flip back and forth 37 times to find the original recommendation and then compare it to the new comments made during this study. I did, however, also provide a short executive summary on page 4 for those interested in a brief overview of the results of this study. To the study and review itself, in the interest of time, I'd like to pick out just specific items which I believe will provide you with an accurate picture of how the police department is currently operating. At the conclusion of my comments, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions anyone might have of the study. With that, Mayor, can I proceed?
Please do.
Okay, certainly. Page 5, scope of work. As you can see, the study was very inclusive and comprehensive in nature. Page 6, methodologies used. The goal in any type of review, analysis, or study is to corroborate every observation or finding you identify. In fact, as you can see, by using multiple methods and sources of data and information, including over 20 personal interviews of PAC members, town council members, mayors, town managers, citizens, business leaders, outside law enforcement executives, and of course the police chief and 5 of her officers and 2 of her civilian personnel, we were able to accomplish much more than just simple corroborations, but many times triangulate or even find complete consensus on multiple items. Page 7, starting with the recommendation 1. Recommendation number 1 and number 2, the PD should hire additional personnel. This has, of course, happened, along with a reorganization so that there are more opportunities for the officers to advance their careers, but more importantly, to better serve the citizens, visitors, and business community of Dewey Beach. Page 8, recommendation number 3, the chief of police should provide additional training to personnel. This has, in fact, happened. The additional training ranged from basic training at the Delaware State Police Academy to required post-in-service training, advanced training of various types, for example, crisis intervention, to specialized type training such as drone certifications, to finally leadership development training using the nationally recognized FBI LEADER program. Page 10, recommendation number 7, redevelop the department's policy and procedures manual. This has in fact been done, and the department should be receiving state accreditation as early as this spring, as you heard the chief mention earlier. Page 12, recommendation number 10, increase sworn officer recruitment efforts. This has been accomplished as seen in the amount and type of the hiring the department has accomplished recently. Dewey Beach Police Department is also using their seasonal police officer program to effectively recruit new sworn personnel. The department is also participating in the new Delaware Police Chiefs Council single point of contact online recruitment site. Page 13, recommendation number 13, the chief of police should engage with more external entities and form better partnerships within the community. The chief has certainly accomplished this by solidifying a number of very successful and worthwhile relationships with a number of community groups, such as the Lions Club, Dewey Beach Business Partnership, the Police Accountability Committee, etc. Several special events, as the chief had mentioned, have also taken place. Page 15, recommendation number 15, the evidence room, storage, and the evidence collection and processing procedures have all been audited, purged, and updated. Page 15, recommendation number 16, the salary packages for Dewey Beach police officers need to be increased significantly. This has in fact been accomplished via the current police contract, which is slated for revisiting in 2027, as you mentioned earlier. Page 17, recommendation number 21, the department needs to initiate a comprehensive calls for service and crime data collection process. This has been accomplished through the use of instituting a full-time dispatch center with an actual CAD system in place. This allows for accurate collection of various types of very useful calls for service and crime data analysis information. Page 18, recommendations number 23. The department should revisit its mutual aid agreements and MOUs with outside agencies. The department is working very well with a multitude of outside agencies, including Rehoboth PD, Delaware Alcohol Tobacco Enforcement, the Delaware Fire Marshal's Office, Delaware State Police, and a variety of other Sussex County municipal police departments. Page 18, recommendation number 24, the Police Department Administration should work special events and weekends. The Chief, Lieutenant Dempsey, and Sergeant Schmidt are certainly doing this and have made themselves available continually to respond to calls for service and/or respond to scenes as a backup unit, etc. Sergeant Schmidt, in fact, also works shift work along with his other duties. Page 20, recommendation number 27, clean up the LISA program. In short, no further comment required, that's done. Page 20, recommendation number 29, the town and police department need to study the feasibility of building a new station. Much to the town's credit, you are moving forward with this with a new state-of-the-art joint town services and public safety facility. Page 21, recommendation number 31, the police chief should compile and publish a comprehensive annual report for the police department. The chief has in fact done this, and the results of these were quite helpful during the use of this study, and you heard the chief mention they're all available online anyhow. Page 26, Appendix A, community input, feedback, and comments. The comments I received both verbally and in writing from a wide variety of people representing a number of different audiences was outstanding. The comments were very positive and supportive of the police department's recent past progress and the changes and, of course, its current operations. The comments ranged from, you would never know it's the same department, to, it is a pleasure to work with them now. Lastly and finally, the new 2025 recommendations. Page 24 are the study's new recommendations. In short, and in lieu of time, I'm going to surmise these. Recommendation number 1, level off and find a long-term sustainable baseline for funding. With the increased cost of the building and a new contract being negotiated in 2027, this will definitely need to be addressed very soon, as you all well know and you've mentioned. Recommendation number 2, fine-tune some internal operations to ensure the current workload, whether it be operationally or administratively in nature, is evenly distributed. Recommendation number 3, the department should engage in the formal development of an actual strategic plan. This will, in fact, and in and of itself, help with recommendation number 1 becoming a reality by formally identifying the current and future direction and priorities of the department, along with the approximate and associated cost. Recommendation number 4, the police department and town will have to reconcile the police department's salaries with the town's ability to meet and sustain those needs. And lastly, recommendation number 5, the police department should institute an annual workplace climate survey. These surveys are very useful in the strategic planning process and help the police administration to stay in touch with any internal concerns that might arise during the year. And as you can already tell, I only have 5 recommendations versus the 37 in 2019. So you have to take that as a major positive step in the right direction. So my final comments and summary are this. Your new town manager and new chief of police have worked tirelessly along with each of you as Dewey Beach's elected officials and business community to build a strong police department with even stronger ties to the community it serves. The increased number of personnel, the better salaries, the new station, better patrol vehicles, better equipment, better policies and processes, revised table of organization, and better training are all helping to build a police department with higher morale and incentives towards higher performance, which ultimately results in better services to the community for which they are sworn to protect. At this time, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anybody might have or give any clarification I can provide.
So you're saying we're doing better?
That would be the understatement of a lifetime, yes.
Counsel. Of course, Captain.
I appreciate being able to participate in that. Thank you.
Oh, certainly, thank you.
I don't have any questions. I would just say that I would have been shocked had your recommendations and your conclusions been any different.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it was I had the benefit of reading the annual report from the police department and then your report. I think I read yours first and then yours second. And they synced, which was perfect. And all the things that we've done collectively.
Good.
And I mentioned when we talked over the phone was when we had that report in 2019, and Garrett, I remember when we all looked at that, we said, oh my God, there's going to be no way in heck that this is ever going to get accomplished. So great to see that we made progress, and Chief and Bill, and you guys have done a phenomenal job.
Thanks, sir.
Cliff too.
Certainly, yeah. Cliff has been an invaluable resource over the years. I've worked with the department before, and he is a wealth of knowledge, that's for sure, and very helpful.
Did he pay you for that?
He did help me get some water out of the water fountain.
Okay, that works.
Guess we know who's buying tonight.
Commissioner Jasinski, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not have any comments. I appreciated the quality of the report and the work you did in following up from the work you did 6 years ago.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Captain.
Mr. Mayor, this report we had to do this based on what we saw in 2019. And there was that open-ended part of 2019. Did the town really address this analysis after they did the analysis? And this kind of, it puts to bed some of those, and we still have some things we need to work on because we're always going to improve, but it really addressed what took place in 2019.
It kind of reiterates, we can never stop looking forward.
Certainly, the progress is more than admirable, but I'm amazed at how quickly you were able to pull this off, particularly with a limited budget. So the question now is, can you move just a little bit more forward with the last 5 recommendations? If you can do that, it'd be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Captain.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Yep. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item C, review the December financial reports. I'm sure all of council has reviewed them. We're looking at what's online as the version 2. Come on, Excel. Sheena, do you have any comments before I open up the council for questions or comments?
Real quick. Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for still being here today. We're entering the final quarter of the year for Dewey Beach. The majority of our revenue streams have been fulfilled, and our revenues have, for the most part, met budget, with building permits being the only area that will not meet budget. Through constant efforts of the department heads, the fiscal efficiency of the town has improved over the past couple of years. As the town continues to grow and change, new policies and technologies are introduced for improved efficiency, transparency, and responsibility. This year, the commissioners approved a new timekeeping system, which allowed us for the first time to be able to have our beach patrol staff clock in and out for the most part for more accurate timekeeping. As with all new systems, there were some unforeseen results of the change. Most obvious was the increase in seasonal beach patrol wages. Some of this was because every minute counts now, and if someone clocks in at 8:45, then those 15 minutes that they were not paid for in prior years do count. All guards, with the exception of lieutenants that are scheduled in early to get the day prepped, are required to be ready at 9 o'clock for roll call. Trying to have 50 guards all clock in simultaneously is impossible. So for this upcoming year, we are able to set the clock that if they clock in prior to the start of the shift, no matter what time they clock in, their time will start at 9 o'clock. This will cut down on those early extra hours. The commissioners also approved the implementation of Edmunds Financial Module. This will eliminate the need for duplicate work and manual report generation that is done now. Edmunds was originally set to our live date at the end of May of 26. It has now been up to April. This means that for fiscal year 27, the reports will not require me to manually enter data into multiple spreadsheets. Everything will be able to be pulled straight from the data. Since the data storage with Edmunds is cloud-based, this also means that our outside accountants will be able to access and review everything much easier, and this will make the audit process smoother and quicker. I personally look forward to April. Does anyone have any questions about the financials?
Council?
Excuse me, my questions really relate to the budget amendment. So I would kind of like to move toward that because my basic problem is the numbers that are are listed in the budget, in the draft budget that we have, are very different in many respects than the numbers that we have in the financials for the FY26 budget. Not the least of which was the FY26 budget as approved showed a $601 surplus. What's in the draft budget has a deficit of, I just lost it again, but shows a deficit of, I'm in the entirely wrong spreadsheet here. It has a deficit. I
But
think it's something
your
like
comments have to do
$67,000.
with the budget amendment, the next item on our.
It does,
Okay.
but it relates to having consistency between the financials that we see on a monthly basis versus what we're seeing in the amendment and what's in the draft budget. I have no idea what this is.
Commissioner Jasinski, Commissioner Barrett, Commissioner Gibbons, anything about the December financials?
Yeah, just a question for you, Sheena, on building permits. So what did we still have 3 months left to collect building permits. What revenue did we bring in last year for those 3 months? I mean, you don't have to answer now, but I think that's good for us to know. But if we did exactly what we did last year, how much would we miss budget? Would we go over? Would we be under? I don't know.
That would just, give me, I can.
Yeah, you don't have to answer that right now. I mean, that's just so we can prepare that for next year's budget. We'd like to try to mirror where we're at this year, thinking that next year is going to be similar to this year.
For the final 3 months of last year for building permits, we brought in a total of $83,000.
For January, February, March.
Yes, sir.
83,000, and how far off are we
Plus, there's also
from hitting building permits this year?
Right now, we're at 443,000, so that puts us at 526,000 if we mirrored last year.
And what did we do for bike? I don't
We
know,
budgeted 600.
600? So we're going to be about 75 grand short.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Irish, that's a good number, I remember.
Any other comments on the December financials?
No.
All right.
Mayor, you have a comment on Zoom,
Really?
public comment, yes.
Bring whoever it is in.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, David Moskowitz, Dewey Beach, and I want to raise a wage and hour concern. I worked on a U.S. Supreme Court case where an employer was required to pay damages for failing to compensate employees for small increments of times worked. So if I heard it right, this employee could clock in earlier, but then the system just changes it to 9. If lifeguards are required or permitted to clock in before the scheduled shift, that time could be compensatable. So I don't know if that's a good idea to do that. I would strongly recommend not doing something like that. And then secondly, in the past, if it rained that day, lifeguards would automatically get paid for half a day, but it was never put in code. I don't know if that practice is still happening or not, but definitely the first does not sound very legal. Thank you.
So moving forward, they will not be required to clock in until 9 o'clock. They will not be allowed to clock in, and they are required to be here at 9, not 8:45, but at 9 o'clock. And when it comes to half days, if they all come in and it starts raining, they will clock out, the ones that Captain Fritchman sends home, and their time will stop there.
We did, the time clock policy was worked with Diane Campanelli. She helped us approve it, so to make sure it is.
Any other public comment? Kate? All right. Regarding the December financials, I think they look great, in terms of, we just continue to get better. I think when we get the Edmunds
Yes.
platform, there's less manual information, it's gonna get better. But I do, just to talk about this lifeguard time clock thing, I do want us to quantify
Yes, sir.
to the dollar what that really meant as close as we possibly can. I've worked in numerous manufacturing facilities where people had to clock in. System always was, I don't care, but you want to come in at 7:30, but you don't start till 8:30, that's fine. The clock doesn't start until that point. It's not, we're asking people to work. A lot of times people come in, they want to have a cup of coffee, they want to read the paper, they don't want to worry about traffic. It's not that they're working, it's just they're, so.
If they are required, if they come in
They're-
and work,
It's
that is
different.
different.
But if you just clock in 18 minutes early,
Yes,
it's
sir.
because you want to clock in. And
Yes, sir.
We had a similar, I was clinical director of a psychiatric hospital, and we had a similar issue with nurses getting in earlier and clocking in, and then they didn't quite clock out on time. They weren't working during that time. They were just doing whatever they were, and it would ruin my budget.
It's every time you put a new time clock system, you think you're gonna figure this out. It's just, it always happens, and with a year later, it's fixed. So it wasn't too much. Any other comments on C, review of the December financial reports? All right, let's move on. D, discussion of possible action on a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2026 budget. Saul, before I open this up to you, I want to talk, this is new for the town of Dewey Beach, first of all. After, I think it was last year's audit, the year before, it was recommended that we amend the budget to give the general public a more transparent picture of what's going on year to year. It's not, as say it as an individual as part of the 5 here, it's not something I like, because I think you try to put the best foot forward on your budget and you move forward with that. I understand from our auditors that this isn't a practice that can be done, especially when you don't budget certain things and there are expenditures that end up becoming incurred because of those grants. For example, if there's a 200,000 grant to purchase X, and we purchase it, so that they're offsetting, so we're not showing an expenditure without the offsetting revenue. So I don't look at this as an opportunity personally, as we go through this, to match actual. I don't think that's what the intention was. It was to basically record as if we had knowledge of these things at the time we did the budget last year. Okay? So I'll open up to you.
The auditors, as the mayor said, suggested that we do the budget amendment each year to account for the uniqueness of events that cannot be budgeted for. With the town not having a set revenue stream, the town cannot be sure there will be funds available to purchase or perform items outside of what basic operational necessities. Under Town Manager Zoper and Chief Speak, the town has been able to use grant funding to purchase replacement items for long outdated equipment, new equipment to help the town function more efficiently, as well as infrastructure projects that the town didn't have to fully pay for. Since grant funding is never guaranteed until the funds are received, case in point, the recent change in fund availability for the joint project with the Army Corps of Engineers, we do not budget for grants. Under accounting rules, all expenses incurred need to be recognized and accounted for, no matter where the money comes from. So even though the expenses are covered at least 50% by grants, we have to show the expenses and recognize the revenue separately. We can't recognize it as a net item, which would make life so much easier. This means that our ending actual expenses will far exceed our budgeted expenses because these items would not have been purchased or done if not for the grant funds. Thus the budget amendment. The other day I spoke with our accountants at Fall Casson. Matt was on the Zoom to help answer any questions. They then reached out to our auditors to clarify some questions. And according to the accountant and the auditor, and I'm reading this straight from the email, while a budget amendment is not mandatory under formal guidance, the budget should be amended. This is because the budgetary comparison schedule, general fund for the year ended March 31st X, page 38 PDF, page 44 of the audit report, shows large variances when comparing the original budget to the final budget. An amended budget should be prepared in order to decrease these variances, provide users of the financials with a clearer picture of how the town is earning and spending money, and further demonstrate the town's proficiency in managing their day-to-day financial statements to their day-to-day finances. There is formal guidance on how to present budget amendments on the financial statements if the town should decide to formally approve one. The question that I had gone to them about was, do we include the grant revenue and the grant expenses, or do we just include variations to the basic operations? Because that's what our budget is. And the reason this was brought up is because our final audit is on all revenues and expenses, not just the operating. So where, is the amendment to take us from just operating to the audit results? Or do we just stay with the basic, the amendment to the operating? And it just took a little bit of time to get all the answers from everyone. So that's where, and as I said, Kate, I do believe Matt is still on.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I am, Sheena.
Thank you. So if you have any questions, he's with Fall Casson and is government accounting, not very knowledgeable.
All right, well, I'll start and I'm gonna open up. I don't know if we're gonna be able to move forward with the amendment today for a few different reasons, and but I probably shouldn't say it to start with. When I look at your the first line and what's been provided, the collection agency fees, never budgeted for these because we didn't know what they were, could collect in past items. Parking ticket fines, 35% of the collected amount. Where I assume this, when I look at the actual financial statements for that as of December, that's currently going to be included in the bank fees. Is that correct? Like
There's a separate line item for collection agency fees.
that we didn't anticipate, and before where they were netted?
No, we never budget for the collection agency fees. Because if the collection agency does not collect anything,
We don't know what it is.
there's no fees. And those are for outstanding parking citations. So when Ms. Horn does the citations and then the amendments or the appeals, thank you. If the person does not pay, she has quite a few steps that she goes through to collect, and then she sends it to a collection agency. And there are some that 3 years down the road come in. We have no set idea when or how much is going to be collected at any time.
But if I look at the financial statements that you sent out, and maybe I'm combining two things in my head. The bank and credit card fees of account number 6010100, we had budgeted 11,254, but we actually incurred 85,280.
That has to do with, we were just now able to close out the accounts at Fulton Bank.
Right.
So we had been incurring fees with them that we hadn't budgeted on, or planned for.
All right, so that's not the part of the 35%?
No,
Okay,
sir.
All right. All right. Given what you just read concerning your direction from the auditors, from Matt, hi Matt, how are you?
Good afternoon.
And from is what you proposed here as a budget amendment consistent with what or is there something different that you would be proposing and having that same information?
That's consistent. I included the grants and the grant expenses.
If you put in here grant and grant-related expenses, or is there anything in the amended budget column that represents more of trying to adjust to actual versus budget?
There is, of course, the parking ticket revenue and a few of the other operational expenses. If I did it strictly based on the grants and the grant revenue, the grant expenses and revenues, then it would, of course, it would look different. You know, I can go with the guidance of the auditors, but I eventually answer to the commissioners and follow their guidance.
All right, I'll back up. Commissioners, questions, comments for Sheena? Or any public comment? I probably should do that first. Okay, go.
I raised questions about this, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet here that is part of the overall draft resolution for amending the budget. And the problem for me is that if I look at those two columns, the original budget and the amended budget, because amended budget has grant money in there, those two columns are apples and oranges. They don't tell me anything about how the operating budget is performing. I don't know, in terms of the expenditures, what portion of those expenditures are supported by grant revenues. I mean, we shouldn't be buying anything, we shouldn't be buying anything that's not in the operating budget unless we specifically approve something or it's supported by grant money. You know, that's fine. If it's fully supported by grant money, fine. What we need to know is a projection for what's the unassigned fund going to look like at the end of the year. It's not $296,601. I don't believe. And also that last line there, I think, is mislabeled. This can't be net changes in fund balances. It simply doesn't have all the fund balance activity going in. There's none of the construction activity for the town hall in there. It can't be. These expenditures would be much larger. So again, I don't know what this represents. What you have in the draft budget seems to be much more close to how the operating budget is performing. There's still some differences, though. You know, there's a $35,000 allocation to the unassigned, or the rainy day fund, which is not included in the draft budget. There are other totals there that don't correspond to the totals that we have in the financial reports that we get on a monthly basis. So again, I'm trying to get a picture of what's going to be left at the end of the year in terms of an unassigned fund. That's, for me, the really important part of this. And what you have in the draft budget, I think, is somewhere in the $30-some thousand range. Is that correct? I have to switch back to that quickly. Yeah, it's $33,751. You know, maybe that's a good number. I don't know. But if you put the $35,000 contribution to the rainy day fund back in there, you're actually just to have a small net negative. So what's the right number? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Matt, can you looked at this amendment a little bit more. Can you weigh in on a few things, please?
Yeah, sure. Just wanted to do a quick mic check. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so taking a look, I believe just to confirm, we're referring to the operating draft budget spreadsheet, correct? Or are we referring to a different attachment?
The amendment, the budget amendment.
Okay, the budget amendment. So Sheena, is that the spreadsheet that you and I have been talking about over the last couple of days, correct?
Yes, and then you sent back to me some changes that we would.
Gotcha. So yeah, looking through the spreadsheet, I think one of the big first questions we had when taking a look through this is, yes, we are seeing a lot of grants coming in, throughout the year, and as Sheena mentioned, that these grants aren't budgeted because they're unpredictable. There's no specific trend on exactly how much the city's how much the town's gonna get each year. It could be $1 million, it could be not. I think one of the big things we noted initially is what are the exact terms of these grants? Are these grants specifically can these grants be spent for anything that the town decides, or are these grants very specific or to be used for very specific purposes? I think I heard that from earlier that around $287,000 of the grant money was spent on technology, $900,000 over the last 3 years were spent on various things in the police department. Was that a town decision, or is that decided based off the grants? That was one of the big things that we had, and I think that would very well, in knowing those terms exactly, could very help match the expenditures to the revenue, first and foremost. Any questions on that, or can I clarify anything with that?
Keep going, Matt.
I'm sorry?
Keep going.
Okay, and then just give me one moment while I pull up that spreadsheet. So yeah, when I was taking a look at that budget amendment, I think one of the big things that we did was trying to make sure what were the exact changes between the original budget versus the amended budget. Just give me one quick second here.
Matt, while you're looking at that, I guess we'll focus on the chief.
Okay.
If the chief had received grants for $280,000 or $260,000, whatever number it is, during the course of our fiscal year, and that $260,000 would be in our operating budget, which includes equipment purchases, correct?
Correct.
Then you would see a positive 260, 260 in revenue, 260. To me, there'd be a balance. And you'd see it on both sides.
Correct.
What we as council have a responsibility is to, when we look at the budget, to actual, and if the actual, especially on the expenditure side, is out of whack, why? Well, it's out of, we spent more, $300,000 more than we budgeted because we received donations, we received grants. It wasn't due to lack of fiscal responsibility, right? So that's, to me, is what the budget amendment should be for, to capture those things, not $100,000 worth of parking fines that we didn't anticipate.
Yeah, correct. And when it comes to the budget amendment, I don't think it tells the use of the financial statements that the town of Dewey did not anticipate this. if the town is able to fully support those grants of like whether it be through like a grant letter, like emails or documentation of that, if the town's able to fully support where those grant funds came from and they're able to fully support their expenditures, then I think the town would be in pretty good shape in case any of like if one of us or the auditors had questions about it, then I don't think there should just be any issues. As long as it's just an accurate paper trail, I think we should be okay.
But Mr. Mayor, not all the grants are for operational, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief. Some of them are for capital expenditures, for example, like for the 45 for the police car. And then the radios went under, did the radios go under?
Radios are under capital expenditures
And those
also.
were grants that we got, but they're not part of the operating.
Correct.
They're over here on the
Correct.
capital expense. So just someone to make sure that
And-
there are
and
some grants like that.
To be able to get a full exact change to the fund balance, where the report that has come up with now to show the changes in the funds each month we're hoping gives a very good, close, accurate estimation. We would have to close out all capital expenditures every month. And we would have to basically do a year-end close every month to get exact figures. So it's very hard. The budget amendment, personally, I'd take the ding and not do the budget amendment because I'm causing more confusion and gray hair for way too many people. I'm talking myself, sir.
I beg my pardon.
I don't want us to take, look, I don't want us to take a ding on the audit. We've done so many different positive things in terms of the audit process, in terms of the policing as we move forward. I just want to make sure we're not pushing things through that we don't need to push through. And I'm not opposed to an amendment as long as I can see that Chief spent $200,000 more than she should have, but that's because, using it as an example, she received these operating grants to cover this special payroll, to cover this, to cover this, to cover this. I can see adding that to the grant donation revenue line because she would not have made that decision had she not received those funds.
But where do we then go with the state grants? We get most of them ahead of time. The Sally and Edie, we get the funds and then are told to spend them. The federal grants,
Well,
we don't get the funds until
time out.
afterwards.
Then you would create a receivable or
But
under.
how do you show that in the amendment? Because receivables are not in your operating, that's.
I would not pull it into I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize.
No,
this conversation. I would not pull it into the this amendment until the matching, if it was a
Okay.
grant received, I would have it in the unearned revenue, grant received up in the balance sheet on asset. I wouldn't pull it into an amendment until the expenditure occurred to get the match in there.
Okay,
And likewise, I would have a grant receivable
right.
out there to put the amount, if you wanted to put in the revenue and expenditure at the same time.
Okay.
So that way, you know it's coming, like the $48,000 for the.
Car?
No. System that you just bought.
Radio system?
Hot pop. Hot pop.
It was the last line item on your capital expenditure on that spreadsheet.
I understand.
I have a question, because I've brought this up many times. Obviously, with the amount of grant funds, and we have, like you said, Sally, Edie, Sleef, all these different grants. So we know the money is coming here, and then we know the expense. So if I apply for a grant for 5 radios and it's $10,000, and Sleef says, I'm giving you $10,000, I don't understand why it can't show up here for grant categories, Sleef, 10,000 in, 10,000 out, radios. Instead, whenever I buy something, it's going under my line items, and then it shows up on the monthly report that I'm over budget by $10,000, but that's not the case because it was grant money, and I don't understand why it can't be separated.
It's a timing. It's a timing and it's an accounting flaw. It's not you.
But it always makes me.
Not
feel like I'm
accounting,
over
not
budget.
our accounting, I mean accounting in general.
Yeah.
By us, but we need to put the right process in place, just as I'm saying. If you get the grant or it's a grant receivable, I'm not gonna get into I hate.
But
getting
I
into-
thought in the monthly financial reports, we had taken all those grant expenditures out. We're not looking at those.
Right, so that's,
Because you don't budget for grants, as you say.
Right.
So what we
What if we
do
put
budget
$1
for a
million
number of other
in it?
things. So why would we cloud the picture of how we're doing with respect to the original budget by adding in revenue items and even expenditures attributable to grants? So those are gonna show up in your police fund anyway, right?
okay, so at the end of the year, when the auditors say that we've gotten all this money in revenue, and it's not matching what the monthly financials, because it's money that we didn't,
But those monthly financials are out for us, so that we and I think the public can understand.
right?
It does not have to match exactly any specific accounting reports, I don't believe. And we're trying to make sense out of all this. And, you're gonna have some arcane accounting rules that you have to follow, because that's what accountants do, sorry.
You're pretty close to one, so be careful there.
So you're gonna have to follow those rules, and I think you've done that over, the past X number of years, because the auditors have really not found any problems in the way, when they've done the audit, in the way things have been accounted for. There've been a few corrections here and there, but by and large, the town is accounting for things as they should be. It's just that we need reports that make sense to us. When we develop an operating budget, we need to be able to track that, and track the spending and the revenues in the same categories in which we did the original budget. That's what makes sense, and that's how we determine what's left over at the end of the year in the unassigned fund. And is there anything beyond, what is required by the general fund balance policy?
So with that in mind, would a budget amendment doesn't work, since a budget amendment is to show, takes into consideration full revenues based on the guidance that.
Let me speak for Gary.
I'm trying to understand.
No,
Commissioners.
I liked your initial point, which is that you're not trying to push this through. It's not, you'd rather take the ding on the audit than create more inconsistency or lack of communication.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that. I think what we have is a need for us to have an understanding that we don't actually, budget for donations and grants. But if there is a decision that's made in town hall to create an expenditure within our operating fund, which now is, that shows that we started with the $600, and we have that expense, how do we show that as the budget amendment in the next fiscal year? Let's get a process down where we go, all right, this is donation expense. We didn't spend it, because I don't want, from their perspective, why did they spend more money than we budgeted? Who gave them the authority? It's because they got grants to do it. Now, we may have issues, errors in terms of like what we have the lifeguard and the time clock. Those things are gonna happen, they're not intentional. But I think that's kind of a process we should look at. If it's something that's specific to an asset or to a purchase of a piece of equipment, that's over in capital expenditures. It has nothing to do with how the town is running day to day. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, can I also make an additional comment on
Sure.
that? I think it's currently mid-January, and the audit's probably going to be coming around probably in April and May. Hearing a lot of good discussion, but I think just like going forward, like the entire process that you guys explained, like how the police chief makes the applies for the grants, gets the revenue, and purchases the equipment. I would make the suggestion that let's make sure that all of these processes are fully documented from the moment, from start to finish, because from an auditor perspective, they're going to want to see that, and they're going to want to see see the full paper trail of that from very much from start to finish. If you're able to explain that thoroughly to them, I think you guys should be in pretty good shape. Because it's your process. It's how you guys do it and how you guys present in the financials. And if you want to make some additional explanations of that process on the notes of the financials, I don't see why the auditors would say no to that.
Okay. All right. So, just a clarification, Chief, we're going to create a process. I'm thinking that we're not in today's meeting, but create a process where we can bridge budget to actual on what could be an amendment or where things are flowing on whether it's a grant receivable or grant received. It's like the flow, it's really a flow of funds and how it's reported on an accounting basis, okay? So are we good with tabling this for right now? Because I don't think we feel,
Yeah,
I know you would like to say yes at 5 o'clock every time.
But we didn't used to have budget amendments when I first came here.
No.
And
Last year
I'm
was the
still
first year.
trying to make sense of them, so, yeah.
The whole intent is that we're giving a more transparent, clearer picture of the operations of town hall year over year.
But it seems
That's
to
all.
be confusing instead of clarifying.
But it may look like we're fantastic this year when really we weren't. Like we expended, and it's
Yes.
supposed to give a better, clearer picture of the financial statements. Okay, Gary.
Yeah, I don't really agree with your approach, but I think it should be tabled right now. I think we have to talk through the approach. I think you're gonna create some more confusion as soon as you start throwing funds and expenditures in there. I don't think that's gonna explain anything.
Well, it's in there now.
Well, it shouldn't be, that's my point.
Well-
It should not be there.
Let's not what Matt said.
That's, again, some of this stuff is for us, maybe, I just think if you start putting those things in there, people are not going to be able to interpret that.
Maybe we agree on
I
one
don't- I
thing.
think that's
I
less
like
clear
the
than-
fact that when we create a budget, we stick with that budget. And if we need to do an explanation as to why it was different at year end, we can do that with an explanation for the town. Does that, I'm not personally a fan of the budget amendment process. But I'm only 1 out of 5. Yeah,
I'm not in favor of that. I want to
We're
be able to
agreeing?
track out our original budget, and how we're doing.
yep, all right. Motion to table,
Motion.
Motion to table.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Kate thought we were getting out of here at 3:30, that didn't happen. Everyone okay out there? Anybody need bathroom breaks?
I think we lost
All right.
most everybody.
All right. E, discussion and possible action resolution to approve the purchase of a donor recognition wall for the new town hall building. Discussion will include an update on fundraising efforts. Kate, you want to bring up the image of the town? So I'll rely upon Kate for some of this. She did some of the background research for the donor wall. We found an organization called Aurea who has done thousands of these across the United States. There are various different walls, whether it be for hospitals, schools, nonprofits, you name it. This is what they do for a living. What we had met with them and given them kind of a perspective of the square footage. The donor wall, we're thinking is as you walk into the main lobby and you go to the right to the
Go to the right to
administrative
the
lobby,
admin lobby, yes.
there's a wall that's roughly 17 by 7 or 17 by 8, whatever it is, that's right there left. That way the donor wall will have more of a visibility versus putting it upstairs in the meeting room. The wall itself has, and this is kind of what they've come up with as a design. So it's not just a donor wall. Each of those boards will have either pictures of Old Town Dewey or current Dewey, different things. The nice thing about the rail system is that you can interchange them. It's not permanent. So as things change, you can slide them out and just use a local printer to slide them back in if need be. The white hand sections on the left and the right, those are actually where people's names might be for part of the donor wall, to thank them. One of the other areas that we put in is the display in the middle. It's actually a display screen. I believe it was a 48-inch display, something like that. Can be used for either update of information, what's going on in town. It could be announcements. It is, this comes with the software that will not, so that Kate or someone in town hall can do that themselves in terms of updating it, but it also has the software, and software it is $1,200 a year, if I remember correctly. It's a software license that it comes with the ability to have 2 other digital editions. For example, if we had a kiosk in the front, if we end up putting a kiosk in the front, it would control that software also. If we decided to put any signage on the outside of the building, it can control that also. So the donor asked here, so what we're asking here is approval for $24,000 You always correct me when I say this wrong.
$24,948.
So $25,000. It's what, I'm gonna try to sell it a little bit. What I like about it, it's not just bronze plaques in the middle behind a glass. It's a little bit more than that. It's not just a donor wall. It's a celebration of things that are Dewey Beach in addition to the donor wall. And I think it's, with approval, the intention is to use this design, to have them to go through a final design piece and then use that to get more donations in. To date, I believe we're at 400,000.
We're pretty close.
We're right around 400,000 right now with donations towards that, from a donor wall perspective.
And that's not including bricks, that's just the donor
And
wall.
additional 200 bricks.
160.
200. Approximately 200 bricks, right, Alan? Right. So, with that being said, that's my sales pitch. I'll throw it out for comment of the commissioners. Commissioner Jazinski, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it looks great. I think our donors deserve to kind of be recognized in a classy way. So thanks, to Kate and everybody else who kind of found a nice solution.
I like that it's going to be in the lobby instead of up in the room, because it'll get more views that way. I like the fact that it's dynamic, so we can make changes, we can update, we can change out. I had the opportunity to look at a number of donor walls and hospitals and stuff over the East Coast, and some of them just look like they were artifacts. This is better.
Kind of like the one that's in our lobby at the current town hall. Yeah. Commissioner Persinger.
I'm not in favor of it. Do I read this right, that we've already paid them $4,000? How did that happen without anybody's approval?
It happened with my approval because under my budget, my ability to have that expenditure to get it designed.
Huh, okay. Well, here's my basic problem is, we started the whole development of the town hall looking at what we need versus what would be nice to have. I think the donors who are committed to this town and willing to put substantial financial resources into this new town hall certainly deserve visible recognition. I don't think that spending $30,000 on this, which would be what the total would be, really gets us what we need. I think there's certainly elements here of things that would be nice to have. If we took that $30,000 and applied it, and didn't apply it to reducing the debt that we may have with respect to this town hall, it's another $12,000, $13,000 in interest costs that we'd be paying. So again, I don't think we need it. I think that we need something that visibly recognizes those donors. I just think that spending the equivalent of 3 top-level contributions or 12 of the first-level contributions is just not the right thing to do.
Okay.
I think, if we brought in 400,000 and eventually get up to 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 or whatever number we end up at, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the 25 to 30,000, it's recognition to the people that gave us money. I think it might drive more people to want to be involved in it. If the Cape wrote a nice article about it.
And got used an image and a picture and buy a brick and.
No, besides the brick, I mean, these are significant donations we're getting, and, a significant donation to recognize that is, we can argue about the amount of money, but I think we're on the right path. Is there any way to get the price down a little bit? I don't know. Can we get it to 20? I don't know any of those things, but I think, I think it's worth to recognize the people that gave that kind of money to us, especially some of the really high-end ones that we got in.
Yes, please, public comment.
I would just say that,
Or hand her that one.
Iris Curtis, Dewey Beach resident. My only idea is, could we do something initially in the short term that is not this elaborate, and then have that be an end goal? Because you're committing a big upfront cost, and then also there's a recurring cost to it. We're just here talking about a budget problem. So I'm kind of in Gary's camp, so, that could be aspirational, but does it have to be the minute the building opens, you're doing this big thing? Or do you say this is our vision in the short term, this is our first cut? And then if we can afford it later, great.
So, but budget friendly could like not have the center screen or something like that, put it in later?
Can we get it, then that be added later when we have more money? No. Either
No.
get it up front or you don't get it at all.
When it's worked into the design like that, it's,
Okay.
a little difficult to add it after the fact. You have a comment on Zoom?
Please bring them in.
Sure. David, go ahead.
Yeah, David Moskowitz. Just a comment that if someone donated, a committee donated any money and expects to be on that wall, they should disclose it before taking any vote on it.
Oh, I donated. I think it's what he's referring to.
Yeah, me too. I donated as well.
I bought a brick.
I bought a brick,
2 bricks.
so, okay.
All right, thank you, Dave. Interesting. So there's 2 paths. All of you know me well enough that I like for us all to be in agreement. I don't like for anybody not wanting to go forward. I know it's unique, but this is how this council's worked and how this council's been successful. I do think that if we push for a vote, I think we can get it to move forward. I would be amenable to if I can get the 5th person to be amenable, if there was a target. Like if we hit X amount of dollars on the donations, we can move forward using this as an example of that we need these funds to get to that. Now, Kate, before I put this out as an ask, how long will it take to develop the board? Or is it,
That
like we
kinda-
don't need to,
That kind of depends on us too, because that $4,000 that we put up isn't just for this draft. This is the first draft they came up with, so
It's
we
for them
could
to
go
actually
back and
develop the
forth
board.
and,
Okay.
for months if we needed to finally come to a decision on what we liked. So that's kind of on us.
I will say this, I mean, I don't mind being in the minority if you want to push for a vote, and, I vote against, it's 4-1, I'm okay with that. I'm not sure that there's a threshold that I would really feel comfortable with. I mean, what I would prefer to see is getting the town hall built, and, at some point you might get another donor to actually support the cost of this after we've, fully supported the cost of building town hall. That's sort of my preferred approach. I mean, I think the design looks great. I know you guys have spent time on this. It would be a nice thing to have. But I think there are probably fewer and fewer reasons that people have to come to town hall because we can do so many things online. But that's another issue. Again, the donors need to be recognized. They need to be recognized visibly. I would prefer to wait to have the final design of this thing until after the town hall is completed and we've got all the financing in place, and then we can look for additional money.
well, that being
That's just my
said,
view.
that being said, I am gonna move to ask for a vote. And the reason, the thought process here is that we could finalize the overall design elements, we can use it as a marketing piece to get more donations. But to know that we're gonna keep taking donations probably through the end of at least through the end of phase 1 of building town hall. So through August of this year, assuming it's done. So the actual creation of the boards that would be need for the donors wouldn't be done until after that cutoff period anyway. So, and we all wouldn't be buying it and putting it in stock, waiting for the wall to be ready to put it up. So this is really allowing us to go to the next level, which is finalizing the design piece.
Because the design, being able to pop pieces out,
Correct.
that you could continue it indefinitely if you wanted to, I guess. Because you could continue to add names to it.
Don't complicate it.
No, but that was,
You're right.
that was my 2
Yeah.
questions. You're behind the screen, you can't, I had my fingers up like two. Item 1, people have donated with the assumption they're going to be recognized, so we have to figure out a way to do that. And to do it and then undo it to do it better seems like poor use of money, but delaying it might be one thing. And then item 2 was, could we keep collecting after August because there's space Because somebody might say, oh my God, I love this building, and I love what you did, and I want to support you now. So we could add a name. Okay, those are my two, thank you.
Can I have a motion?
I move we approve this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. All noes?
No.
All abstaining? Abstaining? All right, it's 4-1, not 4-0. Next, discuss instituting a fee for scooter and moped parking on public streets during the summer season. Mr. Zolper.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So 3 years ago, we started putting scooter parking around town. There's almost one on every street that's around the commercial districts. We do have people that take advantage of them. Most of them are employees that work here in town, that work at most of the restaurants and the commercial establishments. We usually average about 75 scooters to maybe 100, maybe during summer in town at those spots. We were thinking of $40 per scooter for the year. When we look at that times 100, it's only $4,000. We'd have to buy the signage. We already have signs up now that basically gives them free scooter parking. We'd have to replace those or change that signage. Park Mobile will not let us go with doing any type of scooter parking. So if you pulled into a scooter spot, you'd still pay $4 an hour if we went to paying for those like we do for vehicles. That would be something. And then we'd have to, for our folks that are parking ambassadors, would also be dealing with that. I'm not sure now would be a good time to instill this with the town. I think we should table it for now, and I think we should leave right now the scooter parking the way it is.
Okay. Motion to table.
Second.
To table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, David? Okay.
Yeah,
G,
aye.
discuss recommendations regarding minimum standard property maintenance. Council may vote to draft an ordinance based on these recommendations to be discussed at future meetings. Commissioner Persinger.
Okay. We discussed property maintenance standards at the last meeting. We had quite a number of people in the room who made very substantive comments. We got certainly some email comments and the people online as well. What I tried to do is, and I worked with the chairman of the Charter and Code Review Committee to pare these recommendations down so that hopefully we have a more manageable set of recommendations here that may be more palatable to people. What I try to do is to put the changes in the context of the sections of the code where it might appear. There is already Chapter 138 Property Maintenance, Article 2 Weeds and Vegetation, and we would add some substance to Section 138-7. You'll note at the bottom of that section there is already language that deals with this, but it's not very specific. And so what's added here is better specificity, definition of weeds, and specific responsibilities that the property owner would be responsible for in terms of keeping control of, not having uncontrolled vegetation, weeds, and plant growth exceeding 12 inches in height. The rest of that section, 138, 139, 138-10, 138-11, those are all existing sections of the code. There would be no change there. The next change, we would add a new Article 3, which would be exterior structure and property maintenance standards. 38-12 would provide some general requirements. Talks about some examples of exterior elements that might raise some concern by the building official. It talks about some environmental hazards in terms of maintaining them free from environmental hazards, including mold, asbestos, and lead-based paint exposure. Accessory structures would be limited, would have to be maintained in a structurally sound condition and good repair. That includes fences, walls, detached garages, swimming pools, and hot tubs. Rodent harborage, structures in exterior property should be kept free from rodent harborage. The last part, 138-15, 16, and 17, these are all new sections. These have not been considered before, but the idea is that the building official would be authorized to notify in writing by certified mail the property owner or the agent or whoever's occupying the property at that time of a violation. And as part of that notification, the building official would have to specify those maintenance elements that would have to be addressed. The owner or occupier or agent would have 30 days after the date of the return receipt for the notice of the violation to acknowledge the notice and provide a plan for addressing the maintenance elements included in the notice. The plan would have to include a timeline for completion of the maintenance elements within 180 days after the date of the acknowledgement. Then there are penalties here. Failure to acknowledge the notice of violation within the required 30 days shall be subject to a penalty of $500. It would be an additional $500 for each 30-day period after that, during which acknowledgement has not been received. If someone who fails to complete the maintenance elements within the required 180-day period would be subject again to another $500 fine for each 30 days beyond the initial 180 days. What I think is important to add here is that this also provides the building official with discretion to extend both the time periods that are specified above, as well as waive fines as warranted, depending on specific circumstances for a given property.
Where's that?
That's the last
couple of
sentence
lines.
of penalties, 138-17. Building officials shall have discretion to extend these
Okay.
time periods and waive fines, okay? Then the last change we have, again, this is added to an existing part of the code, and this is in section 185-94, which means that if we went forward with this, we would have to get, potentially, consider at least, planning and zoning review of this. It would add a paragraph D, which would apply just to new residential and commercial mixed-use structures. It would require that they ensure that all water generated on a property, including stormwater, irrigation runoff, and similar sources, be managed entirely within the boundaries of the property. The construction plans would have to include appropriate grading systems or containment measures to prevent off-site flow and ensure compliance with this requirement. So I think the assumed penalty here is if you don't do that, then you don't get a building permit. So that's what we've paired this back to. I don't know if you feel like we have enough time to consider this today and decide whether or not we want to write a formal ordinance, a draft ordinance. I mean, we have the basics of the draft ordinance right here.
This is a
Discuss
recommendation, so it's not necessarily.
May vote to
Council
draft
Council
it.
may vote, okay, all right, so, first of all, anyone here for public comment after Gary's review? Anyone in the back row?
David wants to talk.
Anyone on Zoom?
Yeah, really. I mean, the only thing I was going to say is I like the pared down scope, and I like the fact that you kind of included proposed language around penalties and whatnot. It sounds like we have to get planning and zoning on board, so I don't know what the logical next steps are.
Paul?
My only thought, Gary, is I like it as well. Can we compare this with, with the instructions to P and Z to compare this to what the county code is for it and highlight the areas that we're being more restrictive on or less restrictive on? Otherwise we're writing a code that already exists that we're going to follow anyhow. So, we don't want to recreate the wheel on it.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
I have two things. One is that in reading through this, I felt like a $500 fine was too much. I felt that was, when thinking about this, I was thinking it would be 150. Like there was something about, something that it's still a little bit painful, but not incredibly painful. To me, 500 is incredibly painful.
Something you'll remember for a while.
So, and the other thing is, anytime that we give the subjectivity that the building official has the ability to do it on there, we're opening up pain for town hall. So unless there's some very specific reasons why, like if you're getting a certified letter back, you obviously have received it. But if that letter states that I cannot, but you're still giving them 180 days to do it. So I don't know what those exceptions would be, and I would not want to put that in their hands.
Yeah, the only reason I put that in there was have been some comments about specific situations where I guess the property owner was maybe in a nursing home or in hospice care or something like that, and so it was, difficult, if not impossible, to get a response. Now,
So would the-
I don't know what the family situation was, but it seemed to me that there might be extenuating family circumstances. And, there's certainly, Bill shared with me some pictures of some properties that would be obvious candidates for enforcement of this kind of requirement. But again, I don't know what the circumstances are. The idea was just to give the building officials some discretion to be able to, and maybe we could do that with the town manager's approval as well, and add that in there.
In those circumstances, would the letter have been delivered?
I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to build in some flexibility.
Like, would they have received notice?
The way that it's written, we would get certified mail response back that they have received, and that the time clock wouldn't start until we've gotten it back that they've received the certified mail, the way that's been presented.
Right.
So I don't think the time starts, and if there have those
somebody has to
extenuating
sign it.
circumstances,
Yeah.
then like they're in a nursing home or in hospice, they would not have signed for the letter.
Right, so this does not address unoccupied homes that have fallen into disrepair.
Right. So, those are my only two comments. Trying to make it easier for town hall, and I think the fee is just a little.
Yeah, I think 500 might be a little extravagant, but, so I'd be amenable to having a lower number, 150, 200, whatever it is.
It could be matching down below the $250 fine on the property for the stormwater runoff. Again, it's.
Right.
But yeah, I think we can give
Well, there are exceptions,
P&Z
different sections, but.
some guidance on what we're trying to solve here.
Any other thoughts on this?
Yoo-hoo.
You
That would be me. That would
Ah,
be
you
me.
woke up.
I do have a question as far as the way up. I think we should have a little bit of leeway on fines. I'm looking at some of the existing fines. It says subject to a fine of $250. To me, that means we have leeway. That you're subject to it, but we may not use it. So I guess the question would be do you feel that we should have some responsibility to make a judgment call on a fine? And I would like that to be considered at some point. It's not a hardship for us to make that, believe me. And that would be something that the building official, in discussion with the town manager, and the town manager would have to say as to do it or not. Sorry about the dog.
Adorable.
The other reason I think for flexibility is that this is going to be, I think, a relatively rare occurrence. The property values here in Dewey Beach are substantial enough, and people who own them are responsible enough. And this is not going to happen very, very frequently. It's going to be some very
Until they're not.
dire circumstances that occur. I mean, again, there's maybe some slumlords in Dewey, I don't know, but generally, you're going to find that.
I'll support however you want to go with this. I just want it, the town hall support, whether you want the subjectivity side of it and the flexibility side of it, because that opens up work and pain for you. And you, Jim, as the acting building official.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right,
So-
motion to send it to P&Z. Or Charter and Code, sorry. No, not yet?
No, we can
I think
actually
they already
make.
did it. They
We already
already
did.
did it.
The council may vote to
But we
draft an
added-
ordinance based on these recommendations to
So
be
can we-
discussed in a future
We
meeting.
can draft the ordinance with the $250 instead of 500, and bring it back, we vote on it then. Yes?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. I think we had a long day.
Uh-huh.
We are going to, I have a motion to convene, can we adjourn the town council meeting? Because we're not going to come back in And the motion
Should we
to
do
convene
comments first
executive
and then
now?
adjourn?
We gotta,
Convene your executive session and you have to read that.
All right, we have to kick these.
I've got all that covered. yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna shut this down and reboot.
Great. With that, I'd like to convene an executive session pursuant to section 10004B9 of the Delaware Code. The town council will convene an executive session to discuss personnel matters in which the names, competence, and abilities of individual employees or students will be discussed.
Need a vote?
Vote? All in
I
favor?
vote aye that we
Aye.
can do this.
all right, so 5:31.
One time you have to work a year.